And I just wanted to help us wrap up this evening, and then we'll open it back up, obviously, to everybody for continued food and celebration this evening. But to start off, I just wanted to reflect for a moment and say that I've personally really enjoyed seeing each and every one of you here today. There are many of you who got sort of spam emailed from me of like, hey, are you coming or not? It's great to see you here. And to those that I didn't get to reach out to personally, it's been great to reconnect to folks in my class, to the G-Force that are out there. There you go. All right, I knew I could count on you. Thank you. And for those who don't know you and don't know us, we're the Gleitzmen, and we are proud Gleitzmen. Before we kick off, I wanted to say really quickly that there are a couple of people that we want to thank for putting all of this together. And not only all the wonderful people from the alumni community who helped put together today, but some really important Center for Public Leadership staff. And so we'd love for Monet and Eva and Anna to come up. Thank you so much. I don't know if Anna's here as well. We have flowers for these three have made it all work. Everything from how smoothly registration went to how great the food is to the wonderful speakers. They were the ones who helped really facilitate that work on the CPL side, and we really thank you. Thank you guys so much. So if we get another round of applause for them, thank you. Looking at these past couple days, the thing that resonated with me is that we're all here with a higher purpose, a higher mission, and that's the mission of public service, public leadership. And the idea that David brought out the other day about moral purpose and that being the key to leadership is, I think, something we've seen throughout our various sessions today and throughout the activities and actions that I've seen people talk about wanting to do following the reunion. Before we get into that too deeply, though, I want to invite someone up for a sort of special surprise here before we get into the details. So come on up, Colleen. And this is also a very important moment because this is a time for us to honor David and the great work that he has done for the Center for Public Leadership. But we all give a round of applause to David as well. So I'm going to pass it to Colleen here for a minute.
Great. Thanks very much. So one of the things that I especially appreciate and enjoy about being a CPL fellow and now alum is the chance that I have had to see David Gergen in a way that not everyone in the world gets the chance to see. So when I see David moderating or participating in a panel discussion talking about some of the most urgent and important issues that are on our plate today, it might be healthcare reform, or like yesterday talking about the life and times of a US president, I can't help but see the other David Gergen that I know, the one who led the Congo line going up onto stage, rushing the stage when Sheryl Crow was singing at the Academy of Achievement. He pulled a bunch of us together. I have to say I ran, it was kicking and streaming, really against my will. We went up on stage and the security guard tried to stop us, get in our way, but then Sheryl gave a little nod and said, come on up. So Pied Piper David and his motley crew of CPL fellows went on stage. David started boogieing alongside to Sheryl Crow singing, "Every Day is a Winding Road." Robin Williams jumped up on stage and started rapping, telling us all to walk the walk and dance like Desmond Tutu. And so that's the David I see when I see him sometimes moderating these panels. Similarly, as I was watching him the night of the elections, commentating on CNN and seeming very authoritative, very dignified, he's got this one. My mind goes back to another CPL reunion at the Boston Aquarium when two passionate, love-struck penguins decided to consummate their marriage or consummate their love, just as David was talking about how important this fellowship program is. And I'll tell you, everyone in this room, you may have met with members of Congress, you may have had conversations with CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, but if you have not heard the praises of social entrepreneurship, public service, and electoral politics sung to the sweet, melodic symphony of penguin lovemaking, You simply haven't lived yet. So the Reynolds Fellowship really changed my life. And David has been working really hard, dedicating himself so passionately to creating all these fellowships. And he's touched my life and he's changed my life. And much to my husband's annoyance, I tend to keep a bunch of my things from my time at the Kennedy School. And so I was going through some of these files recently. I've got my acceptance letter. I've got my letter saying that I was accepted and I was selected as a Reynolds Fellow. And I have the letter that David sent to us as we were just starting out on this journey as Reynolds Fellows. So in fall of 2005, he writes, he ends this letter, "May your studies, experiences, and friendships here together serve as a springboard of lives of leadership and innovation for the common good." And when I look around this room tonight, I am in awe of what an incredible vision that he had, that he has actually brought to fruition. And I am so deeply honored to be a part of this community, a community full of so many human beings who are dedicated to making this planet just a little bit better. And I guess it must be said, a community still composed also of two very passionate penguins. So I'd like everyone to raise their glass and toast to David Gergen and this incredible CPL community that he has built. Oops, I think it was one too. And now Caroline is going to do one more.
Hi, everybody. If we haven't met, I would be shocked. But I'm Caroline from South Carolina, and I just want to echo the thanks to Ava, Monet, the entire CPL staff. This has once again been an extraordinary weekend, and thank you to the Alumni Council. David has had an outsized influence on my life, like many of us in this room. When I first met David, it was my finalist dinner night. I had not yet been accepted to the Kennedy School, although he assured me that that would probably be okay. And I told him about my early career in international development, and he said, "Well, where do your parents live?" And I said, "Oh, they're still in South Carolina where I grew up." And he looked at me, truly having met me for maybe 2.5 minutes, and said, "You have to move home." And I was like, "Sorry, what? Did you hear what I just said? I've worked internationally. What in the world would I do in South Carolina?" And he said, "Caroline, when is the last time you went to rural South Carolina? They need you, just like they needed you in Latin America and Africa and all of the wonderful places that I'd had the privilege of working." As a result of that, my parents are constructing a shrine to David at home to ensure that I never leave. So we'll send photos when it's finished. But I've been reflecting on what David's leadership has meant to me and, of course, to all of us, and there are two qualities that I think are really exceptional. One is that he has been insistent on opening doors for young leaders to come and follow in his footsteps. And that's not a guarantee of every leader. And I think, my story is unique. We haven't succeeded in convincing any other fellows to move to South Carolina, but we can have that conversation later. But there are now almost 900 of us around the country. And then think about the hundreds, thousands of people that each of us are impacting in our lives. And in large part because we were able to do this fellowship and come to Harvard. And that was David's vision. It was also his fundraising, which, having done that, a little bit of that myself, is not an easy or fun task most of the time. And so the sheer enormity of his vision and dedication to each of us and opening those doors, I think, is extraordinary and something that I feel sure as CPL fellows we will continue doing for others. The second thing, and we've heard about this all weekend, is that David, through his life and career, has shown us an example of public leadership and truly of servant leadership. And that leadership is far greater than self, that it is about the greater good. And he's also shown us that the greater good demands our highest and best selves. And it's hard work, but it needs us. And so I just want to raise a toast, actually, to all of us, that we may be worthy of the investment that David and that CPL has made in each of us, that we continue opening doors for other leaders like David opened for us, and that we continue to stay rooted in the public leadership and the servant leadership that we've seen through his example. Thank you, David.
We only have about 45 more minutes of this, so just kidding. So we often hear about leaders and leadership, the whole pebble in the pond example, right? Where you drop in a pebble and then those ripples flow out. And the problem with this analogy in my mind is that eventually the ripple stops and then the pond returns back to what it was and the murkiness of what it was before. And I might have overanalyzed it a bit, but the neat thing about what I've really appreciated about David is that first off, he wasn't the pebble in a pond. He was the boulder jumping in. And then secondly, he realized that he wasn't a big enough boulder just by himself. And he needed to grab as many people as possible to jump in with him, and that's us. But the biggest and most important thing is even after all those big boulders, the ripples will eventually stop. Unless you build in a mechanism to make sure that there are always boulders and rocks being thrown in. And that's the Center for Public Leadership in my mind. It's the institution that makes sure that the moral purpose, that courageous leadership that we need in this country and in this world continues on in perpetuity. It's that thing that makes sure you're not leaping alone into a pond only to be covered with muck later on, but to make sure that we actually change the very nature of the pond. By changing what it's made up of, what the rocks are, who the people are. David doesn't know this about me, but when I came to the Kennedy School to just look at it, I was coming up from Mississippi. It was cold as heck. It was like February, and I didn't have a coat, and I was sitting out on a bench in the park in JFK Park, and I was like really wondering. I'm like, why would I want to be up here? It's so cold. And in that moment, David was just happened to be walking by, right, like one of those Kennedy School things or Harvard things, and I look up and he just kind of nodded at me and just kept going, kind of like, all right. And that moment, I was like, I want to be like that guy. Like he is here. He is very clearly, purposefully. Like there's just something about David that really just. I was like, this is the place for me. And were it not for the Center for Public Leadership, were it not for honestly the Gleitzman Fellowship, I wouldn't be here today. I mean, I was a teacher in Mississippi. I had no business coming up here. I didn't have a ton of money to spend on this stuff. I didn't really see the connection until I really got the bug of public leadership, where I realized that this is, whether you're in the Swat Valley or you're in the Mississippi Delta or you're in New York City or San Francisco or Mumbai or wherever you are in the world, whether you're in the private sector or the public sector or a nonprofit or for-profit or whatever other sector or possible synergy you can come up with, which we usually do. Or innovation or synergy, if you want me to throw out some other cool words. All of these require people who are of purpose, who have a goal, a place that they're heading to. Because far too often people get into roles of authority and believe that they are leaders. And if I have learned nothing else from David and the Center for Public Leadership, it's that there's a distinction between leadership and authority. And there's something that leadership is something you strive towards every single day. And the course of this couple of days, in addition to the years of being able to learn from David, has taught me that basic point, that leadership is something we work on every single day. Leadership isn't about us, it's about everyone else. And leadership is about the world. So if you guys would allow me, we have a little gift for David. And I want to read it. This is kind of, sorry. It says, and this is on behalf of the Alumni Council and the entire alumni community. It says, as we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them. It's by John F. Kennedy. So we'd like to invite you up here and thank you and give you an opportunity to speak. Thank you. Yeah. Either way.
Okay. Let me speak up here just a minute. Since you can't, I'm too short. You can't see me all over. Thank you, one and all. Colleen, I'd forgotten all about those penguins. This was in the Boston Science Museum. And like, there must be 150 penguins that live over there, right? And we were over there for an evening with all the fellows, and I was asked to speak, and those penguins had been totally quiet the whole night. They hadn't had a peep out of the penguin. And I got about 30 seconds into what I was saying, and they started squawking. It was like, whoa, 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 whoa. And so I stopped, and they stopped. I waited. And I started speaking again, and then they came up again, you know? We went through 3 or 4 rounds of this. We had to chase them off. I said, what the hell's going on? They said, that's their mating call. So I have a penguin in my office that I keep as a memory of that occasion. And Carolina, it's wonderful to see you again, and thank you for going back to South Carolina. You're doing terrific work there. So many of you doing. Babak, thank you, and Katie, and you know, you all had the Alumni Council, then you had the reunion group here to help bring this together, and then we had the wonderful staff from the center that you know, they're dedicated to you folks. There were night after night, there were people here 11 o'clock at night preparing for this. And so, Monet and your team, thank you. Thank you so much, Barbara and others. Now, if I may, if I might ask Ann to come up and join me here for a moment. Yeah, you can come on. Come over here. No. Yeah, no, I know. You want me to stand down there now. See, what? This is it. See, the whole point of this is... The whole point of this is that she spent over 50 years trying to keep my ego under control. And it's often been a failing enterprise. But she's also... No. It is all, I'm going to fall over this damn thing. It's also been true that with so many of you, she's formed relationships and had conversations with you quietly, off in a corner somewhere. And, you know, sometimes they're almost therapeutic-like sessions because she is a therapist. But I know that this has been meaningful for her as it has been for me. So I want to thank you for that, because we wouldn't be here unless you'd done that.
What am I supposed to say?
You always have, you have something pungent.
For once, I'm going to say something really nice to you. And
I've got to live off this for the next 2 years.
No, actually, I'm just going to express my deep admiration for what you've done with the centre. You've birthed it, you grew it, and you are now going to grandparent it off. And I am.
We may need to hear that again.
No, I'm so proud of what you've done, and these kids are a wonderful legacy.
Yeah, they stay. So. You know, when we left Washington back in 1999 and 2000 to come here, I thought we were going to come to have a reflective life, that I'd be teaching, I'd be writing, but basically I would disappear from sort of national, issues, and that also that I'd be sort of I'd be an outpost, and I would enjoy the quiet. But I thought it would be quiet. I thought the big adventures of life were behind us. And that simply wasn't true. The big adventures of life were ahead of us. And you all are those. I look back upon how far we've come with this program, and how so many people have worked so hard to make this, be successful for you, and then in turn, you be successful for others. We are asking a lot of you. We do want to inspire you. I've often thought, the Kennedy School is sort of where I think when you come to Cambridge, you get your roots. We'd like the center to be the place where you get your wings, and that you can fly high, and you can see how much there is to do in this good world, and to see how many people are in trouble and what we have to do together to make a better life for others. And I think we're already doing that. I think in this community, this family, I would like to think you all are already living up to the early dreams we had for you. We would ask you to continue we'd encourage you to maintain the friendships you found here. So many of you have told me in the last little while how meaningful this weekend has been, how you've joined up to make commitments to each other and to the future. And that, I must tell you, that is sort of music to our ears. And I just can tell you as well, that this, one of the things, to be honest with you, we started, well, we had a reason to start this. And the reason was, when we started the Center for Public Leadership, there was a lot of faculty resistance. And they thought, can you teach leadership? Is it really what we ought to be about? Isn't it good enough that that's in our motto, but we don't take it seriously? And so when we first got a small amount of money from the Wexners, we thought, our strategy was, we're never going to convince the faculty in 2 or 3 years that this is a good idea. What we have to do is make a beachhead among the students. If the students respond to this, it will not go away. They can't take it away from us. And that led us to starting the fellowship programs and to build this up. And most of them have been on, 5-year bases, and we go back for renewal. And that, frankly, the fundraising has been a fun part of this job. I've met people I would never meet before. I've had friendships with people like the Wexners and the Dubins and others and that have just made a world of difference in our lives. But I can't tell you how much difference it's made in their lives. You think fundraising is sort of, you ask for somebody's funds and then you have to tell them, go away. These people want to be part of it. They want to be with you. I can't tell you how much Glenn Dubin, for a clear example, but there's so many others. Mort Zuckerman, before he became so ill, was so attached to his fellows, and case after case, what people see in you is the future they want to see for this country and for the world. And people have enormous faith in you. I have enormous faith in you, and I'm enormously grateful to have had this new set of adventures. And we're not finished yet. We're not finished yet. As you saw from last night, the center is going to be in extremely good hands with Wendy, and I do believe it's important to be inclusive. There are 11 centers here at the Kennedy School. One devoted to women and public policy is the only one that has had a woman in charge. Now we have Wendy. Now we've come into the additional space, which is really, it's really important for us. And I think some of the most important issues in the future are going to be about race and ethnicity. As you think about what's going on with democracies, one of the critical issues is dominant groups, and that's going to be white America, do not give up power easily. And yet the country is changing before our eyes demographically. And this next year, if you look at the 18 and under population in the United States, more than half will be non-white. By 2040, the whole country is going to be that way. And we're going to be in for some rough rides if we're not careful. And we need to address that. And one of the reasons we're so proud of this program, another reason, Barbara keeps on coming back to this all the time, we have such good diversity here, and you all are learning to be with and talk with and love people who are not like you. And that's just so important to us for the future. And I think that's something else you can build on. I was really pleased after hearing about the options you had for your choices that you chose inequality, because I do think that lends itself to action, specific action, but it also lends itself to how do we talk to each other about becoming one people. As Arthur Schlesinger Jr. once said, we have e pluribus unum. That's the motto for the United States. We have too much pluribus, not enough unum, which is really true. And I think you all can overcome that. So thank you. This adventure, I can't tell you how exciting it's been for us, and how satisfying it's been for us, and how lucky, how grateful we feel to be here among you. Thank you.
So now the next 45 minutes. No, we'd really like to thank everybody. Please continue to enjoy the food and everything. This has been a wonderful time of reflection and community. Please, as David was saying, don't forget about your fellows when you're around, when you need somebody to lean on and to look for support as we go through, whether it's politics or, everything is politics at the end of the day, or just the really hard work of everyday life. So have a great evening. Thank you all so much, and thank you again to David.